Okay. So, Walter, you're with LibertyBroadcastNetwork.org, okay? And what your group does, or attempts to do, is monitor the voting.
Yes.
Try to prevent vote fraud, okay? You were up in New Hampshire during the vote?
Yes.
Okay.
I was there, the New Hampshire primary.
Okay, and what were you doing up there?
We were trying to monitor the night of the primary. We got up there early.
Mm-hmm.
I watched a hand count from one of the towns.
Okay. Which town?
Chichester. They
Okay.
did a hand count. Some towns there's 127 towns out of the 302 towns that still do it in the open, hand count in the open.
So the town that you were at actually did it out in the open?
Yes.
And what was the process like?
Well, this particular town, it only had one person reading off the ballot and one person across from them tallying it.
Could the person who was tallying or any observers, could they actually see what the person that was reading the ballot could see?
No, unfortunately at this town, only one person could see it. But there are other towns, like for example, Richmond, that had 3 observers. And that town was actually, you know, there's no mistakes when you got 3 separate people.
So in the town that you observed, basically someone read from a ballot,
yes,
the ballot went on a pile, it went into a box, never to be seen again. And so the entire integrity of that once town election was held by one individual who was reading from a ballot that we don't know.
Yeah, unless they sometimes each town moderator can do it a little differently.
Mm-hmm.
So some of them have more than one observer, some they do it all a little bit differently.
So now these ballots are stacked, and because they do it differently, they could be stacked all McCain ballots, all Ron Paul ballots. In some towns they could do like what you saw, they just keep one after the other. So they're going to come in different varying forms. And
well, most of them I think did read them one right after another, because that's the way the recount, when we recounted them, they were in different numbers like that. Very few. I do remember some that actually were in bunches like that.
Okay.
But most of them were.
Did you physically witness them taking the ballots at the end of the night, taking them and putting into a box and sealing it?
No, but I did see the tally sheet. Now the tally sheet went on to a survey sheet. It got transferred, and that's what they reported. They gave to the state police the next day to bring up to the Secretary of State.
So that's where we start to see some of these mistakes that were made. Some towns 0 votes for certain candidates.
Yes, exactly. That's where when it got transferred.
Okay.
From the clerk.
Now in New Hampshire, it's 100% paper ballots, correct? Everyone who voted in New Hampshire, they did not use a touchscreen. They used some form of paper.
Yeah, and now 19% of the towns were counted by hand, and 81% were counted on optical scan machine.
Okay.
But it was paper that counted by optical scan.
Okay, we're going to see in some of these video clips, we're going to see pink ballots, we're going to see blue ballots, and then we're going to see white ballots.
Yeah.
Some have a pink label at the top and a blue label at the top. What we're seeing there is all pink ballots is a hand ballot that was hand counted.
Right.
And any of the white ballots that we see are going to be
from the optical scan machine.
From the scan machines. Okay. Now let's start talking about some of the players here. All right.
Okay.
The head player here seems to be this guy, correct?
Secretary of State.
Secretary of State. He's the buck stops here guy, right?
No, yeah, he's the head Secretary of State of New Hampshire.
Okay, and his name is
William Gardner.
William Gardner.
And this is Albert Howard. He's the Republican presidential candidate that called for the recount.
Okay. Now, as part of your observation, what kind of places did you go into?
Well, I was in the recount room. I was there for 30 days. And worked closely with Howard there.
Okay.
But I also did follow one of the bands a couple of days. I did that.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. You were in the vaults. You were in the local precinct towns. You you were all over the place. You were in the counting room.
Yep.
You were basically everywhere.
Back in, yep.
Who was there from Albert Howard's team to look at all this kind of stuff? Name some of the names. We've got Bev Harris,
Yes.
blackboxvoting.org, Vicky Karp, Vote Rescue.
Yes, out of Texas.
Okay.
Bev Harris was Oregon, I believe. We had a woman, Susan, from Florida, that was with Bev Harris. We also had a woman, Patty from Ohio. Patty, P-A-D-D-Y.
Okay.
She was really good too. She was from Ohio. We had Carolyn from Massachusetts, and Bob Dwyer. You know Bob.
Okay.
Anyway.
We're done with Bradford.
All right, we'll do Hopkinton then next, David.
Okay.
963.
Okay.
961. 965.
Restrict these things.
Sure, absolutely. Now, I think when I got a copy at one point, I got a little wallet size one.
Go ahead.